Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled Murder by the Book. We're going to explore the colloquial terms of the ordinary people that are recruited into the military-industrial complex, the contractors for the military, as well as the soldiers, our brave fighting men and women of the military, so-called, which I'm going to call NATO One World Order forces. And I am raising my index finger here as a point of emphasis, not as a Masonic message, as some woman accused me of. How dare she challenge the great and powerful Oz? All right, so we're going to examine colloquialisms, the milieu of the social grouping of people involved in military intelligence and terrorism campaigns waged against the civilians, the unarmed, mostly unarmed, clueless civilians, which I refer to as the ordinary people. But we're going to explore the vernacular because in order to understand your enemy, you need to do some intelligence work on him, data gathering, see what habits they have, that they are too creatures of habits. Turn the tables on the intelligence community. They're trying to collect data on you through 23andMe, through Strava, through knowing your Fitbit, your heart rate, your daily routine, what time you get up, where you go exercise, where you drive in your smart grid. They are continuously collecting data for predictive behavioral analysis. In other words, that's considered intelligence if the military knows what you're going to do before you do it. That's considered high level in intel. Now, I understand some of this may be boring and tedious, but I think it has to be done because you've got to take away the advantage that the enemy has. They are a monolithic force, but they have a whole vocabulary of terms. The simplest one is back in my childhood, I heard the term pillbox as it related to World War II movies that were being created by Hollywood in Culver City near the Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery, you know, where Sharon Tate is buried. Pillbox is a type of blockhouse. It's a concrete, dug-in guard post. It's typically camouflaged. It's normally equipped with loopholes or escape tunnels in which the defenders can actually fire weapons. It's a fortified concrete bunker, but it's designed to be able to fire cannons or automatic rifle fire from the pillbox. The bunker, which is a different concept entirely, the bunker is a defensive military fortification. It's designed to protect people and valued materials from bombs being dropped from above, artillery attacks by the enemy, or other types of attacks like rocket-propelled grenades or tossed hand grenades. Bunkers are almost always underground, in contrast to blockhouses or pillboxes, which are mostly above ground, although they can be a combination of below and above ground. These things, bunkers and pillboxes, were used extensively in World War I and World War II, and during the Cold War for weapons facilities, command and control centers, and storage facilities like armories. All right, just wanted you to have that as a basic entry point. I've told you in previous videos, if you watched my work, I'm sure you haven't seen all of it because it's quite vast, that the CIA and the military, intelligence, Navy, Marines, Army, Intel, Air Force, they always use acronyms, as do banks, deliberately on purpose to conceal the true definition of what it is that they're referring to. The most outrageous acronym that I can think of that occurred when I was a child was during the so-called Vietnam War, which was most certainly not a war. It was a terrorist attack against the people of French Indonesia colonialism, who were mostly Buddhists, except for the ones that got indoctrinated by the Jesuit priests into Catholicism. But anyway, we had this thing that was rolled out, on or about 1964 after the so-called Bay of Tonkin incident, and it was entitled the Civil with the CORDS program, CORDS. So that's an acronym. That's 5 letters, CORDS. It stands for Civil Operations and Rural Development Support. Let me translate that for you. It's the infiltration of the 47 provinces of French Indonesia, which the media entitled Vietnam as if it were a nation. It was not a nation. It was a place. It's like calling the United States a nation. It's not a nation, okay? It's 12 banking districts that people think of as America. But it's just a banking complex, and it's ruled under maritime law, exactly how Vietnam was. And the CORDS program was about infiltrating the city councils or the provincial supervisor boards and using terrorism, search and destroy missions, and various forms of collection of intelligence, meaning people's names, their residence location, their street addresses, what they did for a living, how they spent their day, and whether they belonged to any secret subversive groups, meaning freedom fighters. Now, let me give you some other examples of acronyms. Here's a simple one, OK, right? OK. But in military, that's not what that means. It means 0 killed. The O is a 0, it's a number 0, and the K is the letter for killed. So it's 0 killed is OK. So it's not exactly what you think of, because when we're talking about 0 killed, they could be talking about enemy combatants 0 killed. That's not good. Or you could be talking about, the freedom fighters 0 killed. That would be good. But I think the military's use of OK is not okay with me, because I look at the military as the enemy of the people. So that's not okay. All right, some other acronyms are AACG. That's something we're dealing with the here and now with the ongoing chemtrails being flown out of a nearby Air Force base. And AACG stands for Arrival Airfield Control Group. And there is a control group that runs those chemtrail KC-135s and C-10 extender chemtrail dumping planes. Then there's something called AADP, Area Air Defense Plan. And they have one of those. They also have an AAOP, which is an Area Air Offensive Plan. And I believe that the defense plan and the offensive plan, you can flip a switch. They're almost interchangeable. Then we have something that I wish I had, which is the AAM, air-to-air missiles. I wish I had a helicopter and I could go up there and greet these annoying scout planes above my town at 1,000 feet above my city and greet them with an air-to-air missile as a form of saying, welcome, aloha, and mahalo. Then we have AAR, which is the after-action report or the after-action review. In other words, all of these air attacks are typed up in the form of a report for intelligence purposes. They go into a database to analyze the toxicity of the air, how well the wind was that day, and how much pollution was done. Then there's AAV, Amphibious Assault Vehicle. Now the key word there is the word assault, because if you have vehicles that can go on the water that will assault, who? The civilians? I mean, there are no Viet Cong around here. Then there's the AAW, Anti-Air Warfare. That's another device we could set up in the park. Anti-air warfare. That would counter the area air defense plan. All right. Then we have things like, it's a long list of acronyms, people. There's literally thousands of acronyms. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm sure you're happy about that. There's BDA, bomb damage assessment. Again, that's another write-up. There's C3, command, control, and communication. That's the 3 C's. Command, control, and communications. That's vital in all military operations. There's CAP, C-A-P. That stands for Civil Air Patrol. You know that Lee Oswald and David Ferry were a member of the Civil Air Patrol, formed by David Byrd, D.H. Byrd, D.H. for Dry Hole Bird, who was a wildcatter. He owned the Texas School Book Depository and a bunch of stock in a company that became General Dynamics, and he founded the Civil Air Patrol. There's also the Combat Air Patrol, no relation. Then we have CAS, Close Air Support. Well, I'd like to torpedo that. Then there's CIB, Combat Infiltree Badge. There's the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. I'd call that more of a terrorism group. Then we have the DFAC, which is Dining Facility for the United States Military. Then we have DOA, Dead on Arrival. We have a lot of those. Then we have EMI, Extra Military Instruction. We have EA, Electronic Attacks. We have that going on every day with the smart grid and the 5G network, do we not? They have an acronym for that. It's called EA. And I don't mean electronic arts. I mean electronic attack. Why does the military have an acronym for electronic attacks unless they perform electronic attacks? Duh. Then we have EP, which we all should have. That's electronic protection. That would be like a copper jumpsuit or copper helmet. We have FA, Field Artillery. We have FIST, F-I-S-T, Fire Support Team. Let me move on here. I know this is tedious. I know it's boring. We have KISS, Keep It Simple Stupid. We have LAAD, Low Altitude Air Defense. We have a profound lack of that in my zip code. We have airplanes running amok at low altitude and helicopters. We have the MOB, that stands for Main Operating Base. Love to find out where that is and secure the perimeter as well as the tunnel system and the bunkers below. We have NOC, the non-official cover. They have cover and then they have non-cover. We have OCS, Officer Cadet School. We have PDS, Permanent Duty Station, United States Military. We have SDD, not STD, SDD, Solution Delivery Division, Military Health. That sounds like mandatory vaccines to me. All right. We have UA, unauthorized absence. I'd like to see a lot more UAs. I'd like to see a lot of military people go AWOL. That's what I would like to see. That would be a good trend. Then we have WIA, Wounded in Action. And we have WORM, War Operating Ready Material. Okay, that's enough acronyms. Believe me, you could go on for days giving you acronym descriptions. But the point is, that's the colloquial terms, that's the vernacular, that's the milieu that the people that are involved with contracting military operations know and understand. And that also would explain Benedict Canyon in Beverly Hills, 90210. That would explain Laurel Canyon in West Hollywood. This would explain Coldwater Canyon in Beverly Hills. This would explain Atherton. This would explain Sand Hill Road, Menlo Park, Portola Valley, Woodside, Los Altos Hills. This would explain Stanford University campus, Leland Stanford Junior University. This would explain Pacific Heights, Presidio Heights, attached to the United States Army Presidio Base. that is therefore attached by the Golden Gate Bridge to Fort Baker and Fort Cronkite in the Marin Headlands. This explains Belvedere, Tiburon. This explains Ross. This explains Tomales Bay, Point Reyes Station, Inverness. These are all military, planned, developed locations. To the typical civilian or tourist, they look like expensive, beautiful paradise zip codes. But make no mistake about it, they had a lot of military planning that went into them before they moved the King's Court into those areas. This is the hub and spoke model that goes back thousands of years, where the monarchy, which is the scion class, has to hire the bankers and the corporate lawyers and the clandestine military intelligence officers to control those pesky peasants that are using our land, because scions are dominantly owners of the land, and they want to rule the land in the same way that we rule the sea, through maritime law, admiralty law. So in other words, the law of the land is virtually the law of the sea, and it's controlled by the scion class, who then invites the bankers into high salary positions, and they can move into these enclaves that I just mentioned. Now, these enclaves have no sidewalks, they have high hedgerows, they have beautiful palatial mansions, they have gardeners, typically Japanese gardeners and Latino gardeners, and they are typically on cul-de-sacs, meaning dead-end roads, for control purposes, command and control, pacification and control purposes, because these wealthy bankers and highly paid clandestine officers are basically the hired help. I mean, I know they think they're pretty important, but in the whole scheme of things, if you've studied my videos and seen my research, you realize that every single banker is replaceable. Every intelligence officer can be switched out in a nanosecond, and they live at the pleasure of the king. In other words, if the scions get tired of listening to the bankers drone away about their digital currency ideas, they can push a button on them and they will go bye-bye permanently. And I want to take that word pillbox and I want to bring it up to the here and now, because the pillbox was really created in World War I, World War II, and we're in 2023. You know, we're 100 years out now. So what I wanted to tell you is we have something called killbox. We have a killbox. Now the killbox is kind of a United States Marine term. It's a military term whereby they define a perimeter, they secure the perimeter. The perimeter is three-dimensional. In other words, the airspace above, the ground system below, and the zip code area of the perimeter can be carved out. Let me give you some examples of murder most foul in Benedict Canyon, Beverly Hills. We had the murder in 1924, 99 years ago, of Thomas Insay. His body was found at 1051 Benedict Canyon Drive. Now, personally, I believe he was murdered in San Diego near Coronado Island on William Randolph Hearst's 150-foot yacht. I think he was killed at sea. But his dead body was discovered in Beverly Hills at 1051 Benedict Canyon Drive. Anyway, that's right below the Sharon Tate murder scene, if you didn't know. Walking distance, except there's no sidewalk, so it's going to be kind of a dangerous walk. And then Paul Levy Byrne, a Jewish man, wearing his wife's perfume, Jean Harlow, he was shot in the back of the head with a .38 caliber pistol at 9820 Easton Drive, which is a cul-de-sac off Benedict Canyon Drive, just above the Thomas Insay death scene. And again, walking distance. That is across the street from where George Reeves' Superman was found dead on Benedict Canyon Drive in his modest home that he didn't own. And walking distance to Paul Levy Byrne, and that would be a real short walk. You know, that would be like under 2 minutes. And then we have Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, Tom Coomer, Jay Sebring, Wojtek Frykowski, and Stephen Parent. That's 5 people bayonet murdered to death or shot with M16 rifles in the case of Stephen Parent. That's 5 people killed, a baseball throw away from where George Reeve, Superman, was killed, just over the hill from Sharon Tate, right over Bella Drive. All right, now, are you taking count here? Thomas Insay, Paul Levy Byrne, Superman George Reeves. Then I got 5 with the Sharon Tate murders. That's 8. Then I got Susan Berman, a Jewish woman, killed again just 3 houses away from Superman's house, again on Benedict Canyon Drive. So that's a 9th. Then, if you're to believe the poppycock media, we had Tony Scott thrown off the Thomas Vincent Bridge in San Pedro, but he lived at 1500 Seabright Place, which is adjacent to Doris Duke's home and the invisible home of Cielo Drive. Doris Duke's home was Falcon Lair at 1436 Bella Drive, 400 yards from the front gate where Sharon Tate was killed. And Tony Scott lives in that zip code too. And anyway, that's 10 murders that occurred within a kill box that you could define, all walking distance from each other. As the crow flies, it's even closer. That's 10 murders, 10 homicides that occurred within a military kill box. Then, if you believe the poppycock media, on January 28th this year, 2023, we had 3 women murdered with semi-automatic rifles at 2799 Ellison Drive, right on the heels of Caroline Ellison and Sam Bankman-Fried being fried, for the FTX crypto scandal. No mention of George Shultz or Doug Leone, who helped finance that operation. No mention of the board of directors who sat on the board. But these 2 of the decedents are from Chicago. Iana Hutton, age 33. I said age 33. And Nina Davis, age 29. She's from Cicero, Illinois. Then we have Destiny Sims, cannot possibly be her real name. Destiny Sims, age 26, from Phoenix, aka Buckeye. And they were allegedly killed by automatic weapon fire in the driveway of 2799 Ellison Drive. That is right down below Jack Nicholson's home. It's off Summit Ridge Drive. It's walking distance up the hill to Summit Ridge Drive, and then from there you could get to Jack Nicholson's home. However, there are 3 military security gates that you'd have to go around, and there's surveillance cameras all over that area. Then there are 4 people allegedly that were shot by automatic weapons, but they've never been named and they've never been interviewed. And it's been 2 months and there has been no updates on this Benedict Canyon, which they renamed Benedict Crest, but it's Benedict Canyon. And so I'm thinking that maybe those are a hoax. So I'm not counting those. I got 10 homicides over 99 years. Well, actually over less than that, over 79 years. I have 10 homicides in a kill box that I'm calling Benedict Canyon. Murder most foul. You got the same situation in Laurel Canyon. You got Inger Stevens. George Harrison died on Laurel Canyon. On the front side, the north side, not the side you typically think of. I'm talking about going down, about halfway down the hill to Studio City was George Harrison's, staying with a friend on Laurel Canyon where he died. Pretty close proximity to where William Shatner's wife was murdered in the bottom of his swimming pool in Studio City. Pretty close to where George Harrison died. Lenny Bruce was killed in Laurel Canyon. We had the Wonderland Avenue killings of 4 people. The number 1 suspect was Eddie Nash, not his real name. He was a Hollywood club owner of clubs, numerous clubs, over a half a dozen clubs on Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard. His true name, he's from Palestine. He's British intelligence from Palestine near Jerusalem. He was born in Ramallah, which is Jerusalem. And his real name is Adel Garib Nasrallah. Nasrallah, a.k.a. Eddie Nash. Anyway, he was never convicted of the murders. He was accused of it, but he got a hung jury. They did a retrial. He was acquitted. And they also tried to pin it on porn actor John Holmes. Tom Lang arrested John Holmes, not his real name. And don't you think it's fascinating that Tom Lang's involved with the O.J. Simpson murder, and he's involved with the Wonderland murders of 4 people at 8763 Wonderland Avenue, which is right across the street from the Disney Air Force 100,000 square foot military underground bunker facility? You think that's ironic that Tex Watson lived like 2 houses up from where this murder happened, and that Timothy Leary had a home right around the corner from where this murder happened? Anyway, I just want to let you know that that's 4 murders. There was another person that was badly injured, but she didn't die. So it's 4 murders. Lenny Bruce is a murderer. George Harrison kind of looks like a induced cancer story. Inger Stevens was definitely murdered. So Inger Stevens, Lenny Bruce. You got the 4 Wonderland murders. That's 6. Then you got George Harrison. That's 7. You could say that Noreen Kidd, maybe that's Laurel Canyon, sort of, kind of. That's 8. Eddie Nash lived to age 85. He's buried in Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery, Culver City, where Sharon Tate's buried. That's a Jewish person from British Palestine buried in the Catholic cemetery. Good cover story there. All right, so I think that's enough for today. You got the picture. We're up against a military force, and so I think it's important, people, that we learn the vernacular, we learn the colloquial terms, we learn the acronyms, so that they can't bamboozle us with acronyms like CORDS or DARPA or weather engineering when it's eco-terrorism, that you have to deal with the applied linguistics. Acronyms are a form of applied linguistics. If Noam Chomsky was here, I'd shoot him in the face with a water pistol squirt gun, and I wouldn't relent until he ran like a little sissy that he is. And I'd chase him down the road with my water pistol. Because it doesn't take much to take these cowards, these Massachusetts Institute of Technology applied linguistics terrorists, and chase them down the street with a water pistol. I think that's what needs to be done. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Please like and share my videos, because I am shadow banned.